Enchantments. They truly are a staple of the Minecraft gameplay. However, I think some of them are incredibly overpowered, while others are very much underpowered. Which is why today I'm going to be looking at every single enchantment in the game and determining what needs to be fixed, or if they should stay the same. So, let's get started. So, this chest here has every single enchantment in the game, and I'm just going to kind of take a look at each one, and, I don't know, just give my thoughts on it. So, starting off, we have Protection 4. I mean, it's personally my preferred, armor enchantment. I don't really have a problem with it, so I think it's fine as is. Next up is Fire Protection 4, and I feel like what I said for protection kind of goes with fire protection, blast protection, and projectile protection. They all have sort of their own unique benefits, and I don't think there's really anything wrong with them. Feather Falling 4. Feather Falling, I think, is a really neat book, and I think it's, you know, I mean, yeah, I don't really see a problem with it either. Next up we have Thorns 3. This one is an interesting one because it kind of behaves sort of like with the Guardians and the Elder Guardians, in the sense that if you get attacked, it deflects damage back onto you, or onto the enemy, sorry. And so, as you can see, this husk is getting damaged as it is attacking me, and, I will say, I mean, I don't really have much of a problem with the Thorns enchantment. I think it's really cool. Maybe slightly overpowered, like perhaps it could be balanced a little bit so that higher armor tiers, maybe they do less Thorns damage or have a lower chance of deflecting the damage. Or perhaps when deflecting the damage, the armor loses extra durability, so essentially having Thorns would cause it to deplete in durability much quicker. Those could all be options, but yeah, that's Thorns, I guess. Next up, we have Respiration 3, Depth Strider 3, and Aqua Affinity. I think these are all really neat enchantments. Depth Strider is great because it is just so awesome for maneuvering around in the water, and I really don't really see much of a problem with any of these. I would say that the Respiration enchantment is pretty powerful, with just how long you can stay under the water for. I think it's interesting because from what it seems, it also reduces the amount of damage you take once you start to drown and after you run out of the air bubbles. So at the moment you can see that I am drowning, however, the Respiration enchantment is stopping me from taking damage super quickly like you normally would without it, to the point where I'm even able to regenerate health. Oof, almost died. But I think it's fine as is, the way it slows your oxygen loss, but I think it's a little bit overpowered when it comes to the losing of health, because to the point where, like, it even lets you regenerate health while you are drowning. I don't know, that just seems a little crazy to me, so maybe that's the only thing I would change about it. But other than that, I think that it and Aqua Affinity and Depth Strider are all great underwater enchantments. Up next, we have Sharpness 5, Smite 5, and Bane of Arthropods 5. These are all really great in their own respective purposes, and again, sort of like with the protection, I wouldn't say they're too overpowered in any way. I quite like the Sharpness enchantment. I know that's kind of the typical, I prefer that one, but I think that Smite 5 and Bane of Arthropods 5 are also really good enchantments, and overall, I don't really see much of a need to change them. Oh, hey, look. Wandering Trader. Next up, we have Knockback 2, Fire Aspect 2, and Looting 3. These are all sword enchantments. So in my opinion, the looting enchantment, I like the way it is. I think it's a really great enchantment, especially if you're harvesting large amounts of mob-based resources. Say, for example, an Enderman. I'm harvesting Ender Pearls, and I'll give myself Flash Effect. let's do 100 seconds of strength 100. As you can see, there I got 2 ender pearls. Now I've got 4 here. Oops. Where are you going? Nope. Nope. So I mean, oh, now we have 8. Like, see, that one Enderman dropped 4 ender pearls with looting 3. So that's the thing. Like, on a high roll, it can be very, very lucrative. Maybe a little bit too lucrative. However, I think, then again, it also is pretty nice when you're, like, harvesting wither skulls and stuff. But, so that's a kind of halvesy for me. It's, I mean, you know, getting looting 3 isn't exactly the easiest thing, so, you know what, I think it should stay as is. Fire aspect 2, I really don't have a problem with that one. I think it's a neat mechanic. Knockback 2, on the other hand, that one's interesting, because I think it's great, especially if you're dealing with, like, a creeper, and it sneaks up on you. So, say, for example, I summoned a creeper, and, yeah, it kind of lets me knock him away. I really don't... Like, it's sneaking up on me, and I can just knock it back. I mean, yeah, it's kind of optional, because some people might find it annoying, some people, you know, might find it really useful. I like to have it on a sword, but, I mean, I don't think it has... For a second, I don't know, maybe it launches mobs, well, no, I thought it launched them a little bit further, but I guess not. So, you know... I don't really have a problem with knockback either. Again, really neat enchantment. I really like that mechanic, and I really like just how it works, how it can be used. Next up, we have some of the pickaxe enchantments. We have Efficiency 5, Silk Touch, Unbreaking. Well, that's not exactly just one that's exclusive to that. Let's see, Fortune. Yeah, so Efficiency, Silk Touch, Unbreaking, and Fortune. Fortune is kind of the same story with the looting enchantment, but I'd say I'm still pretty fine with it. Like, maybe if they just reduced the level by 1 for Fortune and looting, that might make it slightly more balanced. Like, for that one example, I got 4 ender pearls. Maybe the max I could have, like, I should be able to get is 3, or like 3 diamonds from 1 ore, or something like that, instead of the max currently, which I believe is 4. So, I don't know. Other than that, I think all of these are really great. Unbreaking, again, not exclusively a pickaxe enchantment. I just kind of associate it with those, typically, the mining tools. And yeah, I don't know, they're all really good. So, the next one we're going to be looking at is... So we have some of the bow enchantments. We have Power, Punch, Flame, Infinity. So Infinity is an interesting one because it's not compatible with Mending, which I think is really neat really useful because that would kind of make it overpowered. It is a bit annoying though because eventually like it gets too expensive to repair your bow with Infinity and you'll just have to come up like make a new one. However, Punch is also, like, that one's kind of annoying if you encounter something like a skeleton with Punch, because it also launches you back even if you have a shield, which can be very annoying. And then, I mean, other than that, Flame and Power, I think they're also pretty good enchantments. I don't really see a problem with those. Other than that, but yeah, again, Infinity, I do think that it would definitely be way too overpowered if it was compatible with Mending, and I mean, it does kind of defeat the purpose of, like, arrows when you have infinite arrows, like going out and finding, like, skeletons and stuff like that, but I like it, and I think it's a really neat, you know, enchantment. Up next, we have Luck of the Sea 3, Lure 3, and yeah, so those are the 2 fishing rod enchantments. I don't really know much about these. I think Lure supposedly makes fish and stuff come collect the bait faster, and then Luck of the Sea just increases the loot. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like fishing as is. I don't think there's really any problems with it or these, and you know, I think it's kind of fun whenever you're fishing and then you eventually get like a higher tier rod, and your goal is to just fish up better and better rods until you can finally get like a maxed out one or something like that and get other treasure along the way. So yeah. Next up we have Frostwalker 2. And I'll get to mending in a little bit, but Frostwalker 2. This is an interesting book. So I want to go off on a little, I want to take a little detour because I want to look at soul speed. So I didn't really know this initially, but if I go into creative mode and I get myself a couple pairs of boots and oh hello Mr. Chicken, I'll put on Frostwalker and I'll put on soul speed, and then I will get some soul sand. And so what's neat, soul sand is a really interesting enchantment because it makes you go fast on like soul sand blocks. Yeah, soul speed. So if I game mode S, if I go on this, as you can see, I don't have any effects, but I can go really fast. However, it does burn durability. I don't exactly know if I like that or not, but you know, I mean, if it's not like burning it super fast, I don't really have a problem with it. I know this was added much later than Frostwalker, but I think it would be kind of cool. Maybe it would make sense. So hear me out. I have a nerf and a buff for Frostwalker that I want to pitch to you all. So the nerf is that, similar to soul speed, it would deplete the durability on the boots, because I don't know, this just walking around on water and freezing it into ice feels kind of overpowered without like losing durability. But the nerf, or sorry, not the nerf, the buff for this would be using it to walk on lava. Yeah, so I don't really know what or how this works, but supposedly when there was, back with the Nether update, I thought there was, I heard about, supposedly there was this feature that they added where, like, if you use, I think it was blue ice and lava, it would make basalt. I don't know if any of you all know how to do that. I forgot how. I don't know why it's not working, but kind of like a cobblestone generator. And I think that would be so cool to have in the Nether. I know that there are striders, but I think that would just be another neat way for for transportation, to be able to walk over lava and just, you know, forming something like this. You know, this ice is non-harvestable and it cracks when it's done, or when like after a few seconds, so that it just doesn't stay there forever. And I just think that would be an interesting sort of little addition. Maybe another neat thing, like maybe Frostwalker or perhaps some similar ice-based enchantment. Maybe it would be like a neutralizer to fire aspect. Like it could, like if you get caught on fire from like a flame bow or a fire aspect sword or a burning zombie or something like that, then it would reduce the fire. It would eliminate the fire damage. Obviously, if you fell into lava, it would definitely still damage you, but maybe not as much, you know? So, I don't know, I think those are both a few things that could be added to the Frostwalker boots. Next up, we have Mending. Mending is an interesting one. I love the enchantment. I think it is a really great late game enchantment. I think it just stops you from constantly grinding for resources, and I love that it, like, because eventually, the more you repair your armor and tools, the more XP it costs, right? As you can see, I have this diamond pickaxe, and because I have haste, it digs very fast. And then if, say for example, I splash myself with a ton of enchanted bottles, and now, you know, I've used some of this durability, so I'm going to run back over here, and I'm going to pop it into the, oh, sorry, not mending. I'm just going to put it in the anvil there, and then I'm going to go dig some more blocks, and as you can see, as you saw, that cost 1 XP, but then, what if, oh, whoops. Now it costs 2 XP to repair, and then I'm going to do some more mining, blah blah blah, and now it costs 4, as you can see, but it still only used 1 diamond each time. That's so annoying because it gets more expensive to repair, and then eventually your super good armor that has all of the... Ay, get away, get away! Ah! Yeah, see, that's what the Frostwalker would be good for, or like some sort of frost-based enchantment that would put out the fire on you. But anyway, that's the problem. You spend all this time crafting the super good armor and the super good set of tools only for it to just get worn out, and then eventually you can't repair it anymore because you either don't have the XP or it just becomes too expensive and you have to make a whole new set. I get it. It's a really, I mean, it's good, you know, for, you know, I mean, it kind of makes it so like you have to keep like gathering resources and stuff, but I find it so annoying. The thing is, it just makes me not want to wear my good gear or my special armor if it means that it's going to get degraded over time and I'm just going to have to make a new set. And so I just like keep it in a chest or something like that and just preserve it as much as possible, which is kind of annoying because, I mean, the whole point of crafting that armor and the tool set is for you to use them, right? Now, I know mending is kind of, well, it's the solution to what I just described, but it is, I understand why people might see it as overpowered, because you can get it through villagers. My suggestion would be just remove it from the villager trades altogether, but then make it maybe more common in, say, like, end city chests, or just any structure chest in general, so that then you'll still be able to find it, and it'll be much, much more common, maybe in some of the later game structures, or the harder structures, and I think that would be a great exploration, sort of a great thing for improving exploration, because then, you know, people are going to want to go out and revisit old structures. That's the thing. That's the problem with current structures, is that they get dull, right? The loot gets old, and eventually you just, like, you know, at the beginning of your world, you might say, oh, hey, look, an igloo. There's, you know, a potion of weakness and a golden apple. But then, you know, say you've played for, like, 500 days, and then you come back to, like, you find another igloo, and you're like, okay, you know? And so, that's the thing. It's like, there are so many of those early game structures that become, that you just don't really bother with anymore later in the game, because they don't really have any great loot that you want to get. So, maybe that could be a way to entice players to, you know, keep exploring and looking for those early, like, those earlier basic game structures, because even though they might not have, you know, like, end city loot type stuff, like, once you've reached the end city, you know, an iron chestplate and a blacksmith in a village, you know, isn't exactly as valuable as it was on day one, but, you know, this would encourage people to, you know, keep checking those chests and keep finding those extra structures in order to, you know, maybe just have the chance to find a mending book. And I think that would be really cool. On the other hand, another solution would be to... My goodness, it is raining quite a lot. Another solution that I thought about is, what if mending kind of scaled with the armor type that you had? Now, I don't exactly know all the details behind mending as of currently. All I know is, you know, 1 XP orb or something like that, you know, repairs a few durability, and a lot, you know, will heal up your elytra or your chestplate or your boots or sword or whatever it is. So maybe what could happen is it would have a stronger impact, as in less XP. Say, for example, 10 XP orbs, as of currently, repairs 50 durability, right? Or like 1 XP orb repairs 5 durability. Say, for example, that remained the same for, I don't know, leather or copper or something like that, some of the lower armor tiers, or gold, but then for the higher armor tiers, maybe like iron or like diamond and netherite in particular, then it would be that you would need, it would like 1 XP orb would repair like 2 or 3 durability. Essentially, the better armor you have and the better gear you have, the more XP you need in order to repair the same amount of durability. So, next up, we have Cursive Binding and Cursive Vanishing. I think that those they're interesting. I wouldn't exactly call them enchantments, because they are technically curses. I think they are, I mean, there are all sorts of creative ways to use them, and I think they are definitely, they definitely help to balance out some armor, because it's like, oh, well, I found this piece of armor or this sword or something with this, or this book with all these other great enchantments on it, but there's also, you know, a curse on it. I think it would be cool if there was a way to perhaps remove the curses. So maybe there could be like some sort of counter curse enchantments as well. So I think it would be cool if there was a way to get rid of the enchantments somehow, like, or the curses. But I also think it would be cool if there was some sort of counter enchantment for each of them. For example, or just something, some sort of super enchantment like that. Because Curse of Vanishing, for example, it removes the item upon when you're defeated. But what if there was like a super, like an opposite variant that when enchanted on like a tool or something like that, it would stay with you after you died. So you would respawn and you would still have that item in your inventory. Kind of like a keep inventory, but for that one item. So as for Curse of Binding, I can't really think of a good one for that, but I do love how the Elytra, it doesn't break when it runs out of durability, it just stops you from using it. So what if there was like some sort of counter curse, super enchantment, whatever you want to call it, that would essentially prevent any sort of tool or like item from breaking like after it runs out of durability, so that you can still repair it and it doesn't just completely delete itself. Now, I mean, for armor, that would just stop it from protecting you and neutralize all those enchantments. For like a sword or something, you just wouldn't be able to swing it. A pickaxe, you wouldn't be able to mine with it. Anything like that. And I think that would be a really interesting way to kind of tweak these a little bit. Up next, we have Impaling, Riptide, Loyalty, and Channeling. These are all the Trident enchantments. I don't really see too much of a problem with these. I like all of them, I think. And I think it kind of makes sense how you either have to choose between a Loyalty Trident or a Riptide Trident. And yeah, I mean, Channeling, that's an interesting one because it's really, I mean, it's powerful. It's a really powerful enchantment, and I think it's really cool. It's just really hard to use because you have to wait until there's a thunderstorm and like the whole weather cycle and all that. But other than that, I think these are all really good, and I don't really have anything to say about them. Next up, we have Multi-Shot, Piercing, and Quick Charge. These are all of the crossbow enchantments. So one thing that has always bothered me about the crossbow is the fact that it isn't compatible with power. I don't know if... I don't know too much about the crossbow enchantments. Like, I don't know if they actually increase the amount of damage that you deal with the crossbow, but either way, I mean, multi-shot is great because, you know, it fires 3 arrows at once, and I don't know, I think that's a pretty neat enchantment. It's hard to use because you can't exactly control where the other two go, but if you're fighting like a horde of mobs or something and they come up on you, then you can, yeah, that's just a really good one. Piercing is not actually compatible with multi-shot, as I kind of found out here. But yeah, Quick Charge is. Quick Charge, again, I love that one because it lets you, you know, draw back the crossbow and really fast. I did not. Yeah, I thought there was one of these that wasn't compatible. Apparently it's Piercing and multi-shot. I love the Piercing enchantment because it allows the arrow to travel through the mob, and you can essentially pick it back up. I will say, this is a little bit overpowered. Say, for example, I have a Creeper, and I just need to get a new crossbow because that one obviously is not compatible anymore with the current one. But say, for example, I load this up with these arrows of night vision, and I get this Creeper, and I shoot it, and notice the arrow, it goes right through it. And now, I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it just, like, it means that you can have infinite potion arrows, essentially, and endless tipped arrows, like you can reuse them constantly. And this is especially, I would say, especially overpowered if you take a look at the arrow of, which one is it? The arrow of weakness, because with that, you can actually get a zombie villager. Whoops, you can get a zombie villager and a golden apple, and as you can see, if I summon this guy, and I do that, then he still gets the enchantment and or the effect, and I can still feed him the apple, but I can still reuse that arrow, which is, I don't know, maybe it's a little overpowered, maybe it's not. But if you didn't already know that about the weakness arrow, yeah, that's I don't know, just a little neat bit of information. Now we're getting down to some of the more recent enchantments. We have Swift Sneak, Wind Burst, Density, Breach, and Lunge. I'm just going to cover all of these at the same time. Swift Sneak, I love it. I think it's a great enchantment. I think it really adds to the Deep Dark and gives you a real reason to want to go down there and get it from the ancient cities. And yeah, sneaking, you know, it's always kind of annoying when you have to sneak, or like if you're on an edge or something, and so that just, you know, makes it really easy to use. Next up is the Windburst enchantment. I don't know too much about these three for the mace. I mean, it already does a lot of damage, which is a little unnecessary to add to it. If I understand correctly, I'm gonna try it. So if I understand correctly, for the next three, so we have Windburst, Breach, and Density, and so if I don't really know exactly, like, I don't really have a problem with these. It just seems a little overkill, seeing as it already does a ton of damage as is. But if oh my goodness. Yeah, see, that's the problem with Windburst. It launches you back up into the air, and so I love it because, I mean, it lets you chain your attacks on mobs, but that also means it kind of defeats the purpose of the wind charge, because like I know the wind charge and like the mace are good for like when they're combined for like PvP and stuff. I believe. I will say another thing I didn't quite realize is just how powerful this enchantment is. I did not realize that it could launch you this high. Like, that's insane. That seems like that's a little too high, in my opinion. Imagine if what if I had an iron golem, and I just want to see how much damage. Oh, hang on. Like, how much damage can I do from? Okay, so I mean, I can like 3-shot it. So that's maybe it's not super powerful, as powerful as I thought, but it still launches you incredibly high. I don't know. That one's debatable. And then, of course, there's the Lunge enchantment. I don't really have any notes about that one either, but so overall, these are the 8 sort of enchantments that I think could be changed. Thorns, Respiration, Frostwalker, Mending, Curse of Binding, Curse of Vanishing, Windburst, and Looting. If you have any others that you're not a particular fan of or that you think could be changed, let me know. But yeah, I think some of them are pretty overpowered. Curse of Binding and Curse of Vanishing. It's not that I have a problem with them necessarily, I just think there's potential for extra features. But then, and then of course, the Frostwalker is sort of, I personally think it's underpowered, underutilized, just because I never see anyone wearing Frostwalker boots. I don't want to wear Frostwalker boots, because if I fell from a height and I landed in some water, then it would, of course, I would still take fall damage on the ice. Maybe it could negate that fall damage. I think that would be cool, kind of like how the wind charge, if you launch with it, apparently it does not, it doesn't deal fall damage depending on how high you fall from with that wind charge. So I think that could be useful as well. But again, let me know what you think, and if there are any other enchantments that, like something you would do differently or something you would change. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye!